should I open this up? So you've had one for a while, Andy, huh? The Nexus 7?
Yeah, I've had one for a couple of weeks.
So people who ordered, as I did, the day they offered it on the Play Store, are just now starting to get them. It shipped. Let me see if I can. This is a tight box.
If you go to play.google.com and try to order one, it ships at a very Apple-like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah. I think this is interesting because the high demand.
You need to cut that. Ayaz had a hell of a time with the.
Really? Did he?
Yeah.
He doesn't have sharp fingernails like I do. You're right. This is
Catalan.
This is some sort of special Kevlar vest. Wow. John's come with his big knife. But Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. The real key to this, if this were $400 and $500, it would not be exciting. It's $200 is why it's exciting.
No. Well, okay. Yeah, okay. There are two components to it. Number one, yeah, it's exciting. That's $200, but not just because people would love to have an iPad that costs $200.
Right.
The sort of people who were not excited by the iPad are people who were put off by the price and put off by the size of it.
Right.
I realize that this is still this is a $500. This is really almost identical to a laptop in the sense that it's a $500 device you have to carry around in a bag, and it's super slim and it's super light, and the battery lasts a super long time, but it still has all those drawbacks to it. Whereas this is well within the price range of an ebook reader. I mean,
right.
And $99 is now the cost of a black and white e-ink based Kindle device. The Kindle Fire, which really has to, I think, be regarded as an e-reader with benefits as opposed to a tablet, that costs $199. This is a real damn tablet. So it's just this morning I was out to breakfast, and I was actually reading my MacBreak Weekly research on this. Fits in the front pocket of my 511 tactical pants, by the way, not even the back pocket, but the front pocket. And so I'm using it, and the waitress who's used to seeing me with technology asked me about it, and I explained to her what it was, and she played with it for a little bit. She said, "Wow, so it's cooler than the iPhone, but it's better than the iPad because it's small." And I paused for I didn't want to argue with her about what was good or bad about the iPad versus this, but I'm like, this is an ordinary person who's not necessarily obsessed about technology,
and she got it.
And this has had a more fundamental appeal to her than the iPad because it's smaller and it's more affordable.
Yeah,
that's a big deal.
I have for a long time. I had the 7-inch Galaxy Tab, and I think I was the only person, because I'd held it, who said, you know, this is the right size. Now, what was wrong about that was Honeycomb. The Honeycomb operating system was terrible. Right. And this is an example of Google, kind of like the monkey, assembling the gun. Yep. They've got the bullet in the chamber now. This is pretty close. And do you think this is why Apple is so widely rumored to be doing a 7-inch tablet?
I'm not really sure. I think I honestly believe, and though this sounds naive, I think this is true. I don't think they would be even remotely interested in the 7-inch iPad or 7. People, would you believe that people have been correcting me about being wrong about a device that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
But people have said it's not a 7-inch tablet, it's a 7.85-inch tablet. I wonder if you'll have the guts to correct your mistake. Okay, whatever. These somewhere between.
We probably should call it an 8-inch tablet because it's really rounded up.
These smaller iPad, let's say. I honestly think they would not do a smaller iPad unless they legitimately and on their own believe that they could make a great product out of it. They wouldn't do it because they'd make something crummy, but only because some other competitor.
Let me interrupt here. This is one thing that Android does do very well. Because I have a Google account and other Android devices, I can restore from my Google account to this tablet. At this point, it's going to log in and it's going to download all the apps I have already purchased, all the settings and so forth to it, which means that in a few minutes it's going to really be ready to run.
No, but that's something you can do with iOS, right?
I guess you can.
Yeah, because I've got new iOS devices.
You're right. From the cloud, it downloads the apps, but boy, it sure takes a long time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they've got a very, very good solution for this, but I agree with Andy that I don't think that they would be doing an iPad Mini because they would fear that they would be losing money from these other things. To quote, and it's cool because Andy's got the picture behind him, to quote Spaceballs, they're doing it for an S-load of money because they think they can make it. You know, an iPad Mini, and this is the difference. I think that everything, and I've had a little bit of hands-on time with the
7,
the 7,
yeah,
and it's good. It's very, very good. I very much enjoyed my experience with it. But at the same time, Google's not making money on this, right?
Right.
Like, we don't know how much of a bath they're taking on it, but it's either very close to breaking even or they're losing, you know?
Right.
So I don't think that Apple does this if that's the same proposition, because that hasn't been the way they've done it in the past.
But to be fair, there was a cost breakdown on the Kindle Fire when it first came out, and the initial cost breakdown was close to that. They're selling it close to cost, or maybe
Right.
with about $10 profit for every $200 unit sold. That has since been adjusted, and now analysts believe that they're making about $30 to $40.
Okay.
Without
Which is
factoring in
respectable.
marketing costs.
That ain't bad.
Which is okay. If I think that if Apple, I also agree with you 100% there. They would not sell a miniature iPad at cost. They would try to still make their 25 to 30% margin. I think that if they're affected by these little smaller tablets, it's only because it's a classic turnaround where they're letting Amazon and Google do their market research for them. If they've already sold millions of Kindle Fires, I think that Google will do exceptionally well selling these, and that will at least demonstrate to Apple that okay, there are people who really want a 7-inch or 8-inch form factor. That means that we're leaving money on the table by not addressing those people who feel like they're being left out by the iPad. So that's the only way I think that these smaller tablets would affect Apple.
And to your credit, Andy, you have always said that Apple does not do reactive. Apple doesn't look at the competition. It's funny because they're one of the few companies in Silicon Valley that doesn't go, what's Facebook doing? What's Google doing? And so I think you're right. I don't think they're looking at Google and saying, well, they're doing a 7-inch tablet, we better.
Or when they have had those inclinations, they have been their failures, and I think Ping was one of them. Ping was, how do we bake social into
Good point.
a thing?
So maybe they did do that with Ping, yeah.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about, the iPad mini rumors are, is I completely lost my train of thought. I was going to say something really interesting.
Say
and
nothing then.
Yeah, then
Yes.
it evaporated. I thought if I
The
stammered
one thing
long
I
enough,
would say.
if I stammered
do
long
that.
enough, I could come
And
up
sometimes
with
it comes to you, and then sometimes you just look like a moron. Not that
this
you
on
look like a
instead.
moron.
No, I wore a jacket.
Try to like master that facial expression that says, "Oh, I just forgot. I'm under NDA on something. I can't talk about."
Oh,
this.
see,
I better look like I lost my train of thought.
I've only been in the Bay Area for like a month and a half, but now I just need to start inventing NDAs
It's
for
all
myself.
about
Like,
the
I talk
NDA,
about this if
baby.
I didn't already know things I can't talk about.
I can't talk about it. This is, I played with this a little bit.
At Isotope Comics, and he had, I thought he had a Nexus 7 on the Comixology app, but I saw the Apple logo on it.
I had played with this a little bit before, and even we did a quickie review. But now that I'm getting to look at it a little bit more, the good screen. It's a little dim, but it's a very crisp
IPS
screen.
same technology as the iPad.
I mean,
220 DPI.
Right. 220 is good.
The only thing in terms of all the motions of the graphics and everything, which is always where I've noticed Android has kind of lagged more than iOS. It's completely caught up except for pinch and zoom, I found.
Yeah, I should be able. Oh, wait a minute. I did.
Pinch and zoom was still just had a little bit.
Did you feel that
little
lag
clang.
though? Yeah, I thought it wasn't doing it because I did this and it took a while.
Yeah, it's much better. It's a Tegra 3 processor quad core, as
Very
good as
fast.
you can really get in a device like that.
Yep.
Also, they actually made a big point during the developer conference about talking about one of the features of Android 4.1 was to re-engineer the touch interface so that to get rid of that kind of a lag. I think that they've mostly eliminated it. I don't think they've completely eliminated it. At this point, what I notice more isn't so much that it lags behind so much as this is like a planet with slightly larger mass than planet Earth, where the gravity is just a little bit different. Because when I want to flick and scroll things, I expect a certain speed and a certain like physics that doesn't match here. So I find that it's 97%.
It's what you're used to, though. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
I know what you're
there's still a
laughing
little
at,
bit
by
of
the way,
lag.
Justin. You're laughing at my music.
No, listen,
You were laughing at the
you
fact.
rock the club bangers, Leo. We've always known that about
Kid
you.
Ink, Def Jam, a little Jet Life to Tyga,
Okay,
50 Cent.
I totally remembered what I was going to say. So if we flash back to when the iPad,
It's the 50 Cent, isn't it?
Yeah,
it brought it all back.
Fitty jogs my memory.
Yeah,
as
baby.
he normally does.
Yeah.
When we flash back to when the iPad was announced, and the buzzword was it's a gray area, and critics of the idea of the concept before it got in people's hands was that we have an iPhone, we have a laptop, why do we need this gray area device? And to think now that we are in a very short amount of time in a place where we're all kind of in agreement that a 7-inch tablet to live between your smartphone and your iPad is not a crazy idea that people could want to own, especially at a $200 price point. To have 3 kind of touch interface computers is amazing. It just really shows how far we've come as consumers psychologically in thinking about how much we rely on these devices.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because we have so much data now that we rely on, that when we have different ways of articulating that data, it's not about the device, it's about the content, it's about the photos, it's about the books we rely on, it's about the music. And when you have a different and a unique way to express that and use them in our daily lives, that's a big deal. I also agree with you that a 7-inch, it's hard to think of someone who would necessarily not want a 7-inch tablet. Not that everyone should have it, but even someone who already has an iPad, I can see someone saying that, yes, but it's nice to have like a more portable version of the iPad so that I can, something more practical for reading that's more comfortable to hold on to. I travel with the iPad instead of with my MacBook. If it's a heavy work week, I will actually take my iPad 3 and my iPad 2 and have the luscious like 2-screen display. This would work even better for that, because now I have like an even cheap, if I didn't already have a second iPad, it would be, well, here's a $200 device that can do really things that the iPad can't do because of its size, and I could still have like that second side in the hotel room, that second screen that's showing me Netflix or my Slingbox or my YouTube content while I'm actually doing work on my primary window on the iPad.
Well, now here's the thing. This is 16:9. This is movie widescreen, and we don't know, but the rumor is that the Apple will be 1024 by 768. It'll be 4 by 3 like the other iPad. Which is a better choice for a device this size? Long and tall and thin, or square?
You know what? I absolutely admit that I was wrong. When we were talking earlier, like last year, about the idea of, I'm sorry, months ago, the first idea of a 16:9, excuse me, a longer and skinnier iPhone came out, I thought, oh man, that seems so awkward and that seems so weird. I think that it's really more like, it's more like I wasn't used to that form factor, and it was really difficult for me to just imagine, like, see the movies being displayed that way, or even not. I mean, for movies, it's great. It's more like the question of, what do you do when you actually just have a web page? What do you do when you have just a document? We're not used to. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not used to seeing like legal sized form factor. But it really was a case of, it's not that this is wrong. It's just that, Andy, you dimwit, you're just not used to it.
So it's all right.
Now I don't see any problem with it. And also, given that most movies are now being formatted for widescreen format, you're losing less information off the screen when you display it that way. So there's actually a practical benefit for it. So again, I was wrong.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
good.
Look, we're violating copyright.
Yay! It's Shrek interlaced. Yay!
That's Brave. Come on, man.
Brave.
Yeah.
How can you be watching Brave?
I know. I think Pixar's going to make versions of that on the Google Play Store that just stutter and stop randomly and like pop up error messages.
That's a trailer. It's okay. You can we can broadcast trailers, can't we?
No,
you want to see movies that I've ripped? Hang on.
You mentioned
Rises, anybody?
You mentioned earlier MG Sigler's review in TechCrunch,
right?
And he is, of course, a virulent.
Well, he would dispute the fact that he's an Apple fanboy, but I think the rest of the world.
I would say he's a virulent explainer of the Apple position.
Thank you.
You know, I think that would be a safe way to put it.
Okay.
And I love his writing, but his point was like, he leaves the iPad on the couch and he would take the Google 7 and
that was
read in
kind
bed.
of a revelation to him, was that he would pick this up out of choice. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? You know, I don't know how I'm going to react on this. I am an Android fanboy. I admit it. I use a Galaxy S3. I still have an iPad and an iPhone, and I love them, and I'll buy the new iPhone. But I was early on the Android bandwagon. I like Android, and so I'm glad to see people who one might think didn't have open minds to something like this, saying, yeah, you know what, this isn't that bad. That's a good sign.
Well, and to Andy's point, it's content, and the medium is the message. If there's something that you would like to read, if you like to do reading in bed, then
the small size does work.
The small size, you can hold it easier. You don't.
See, Andy and I were the only two people in the world who liked the Kindle Fire. We both like the Kindle Fire.
A lot of people like the Kindle Fire, which is actually my other question about.
Well, this is so much better because it's fast.
But here's the thing that
really
Apple
Android.
and Amazon have, which is retail outlets and relationships with customers that pay money in a way that Google doesn't.
So how does Google get this in front of people?
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Kindle Fire, they blew off the shelves because every time you went to Amazon to buy anything, it was like, by the way, $200, and it kind of looks like an iPad, and it's getting decent reviews. I don't know. Just add it to your cart. What do you?
Right. It's easy.
You know, like, and Apple obviously has these fantastic destinations where you can go. They look amazing. They have commercials that look great. They have a relationship with consumers. They have credit cards on hand. Google, that's the one area where Google doesn't have a natural advantage. That people who interact with Google products, except for, I mean, Android users, something that's coming along, but it's relatively new, are by and large have a relationship that is free. You know, even for Android phones, you get your phone as part of your 2-year contract. It's not like you say, well, that's what I plunked down my hard-earned money for.
So how does Google get this in front of people? Do they sell it at Best Buy, or they?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to look it up, but yeah, this is being ordered from Staples, Office Depot, GameStop, Sam's Club. I'm not sure if that meant online or in brick and mortar.
Right. So in theory, anyway.
Well, I think it's at Sam's Club and Costco's, but you know, if you've been to a Sam's Club and Costco's, it will be another new tablet, another new Android tablet.
We were talking about that on TWiT.
There's been a lot of them before, and they've all blown.
That's why Apple has a great advantage by the Apple Store. It's why Microsoft's doing Microsoft stores more and more. Even Sony, Samsung just announced they're going to do stores. There is an advantage to having the exclusivity.
They got a little static, right? Because they look a little too Apple-y.
No, you saw that the judge in England who said that Samsung's not cool enough to have actually stolen this, so they're off the hook. They don't have the cool factor.
And then the judge danced off like a shadow.
I think it's very strange. It's a very strange ruling.
I'm sorry, clarifying, yes, it is available actually in the retail stores. It's not just like staples.com.
Okay, good. That'll help. I'm sure they worked very hard to make that possible.
But there's also the dimension where so much of what's available on the Google Play Store is not necessarily available internationally.
Right.
So Apple is selling iPads and iPhones in every single country. They can sell content in every single country. They have one hell of a head start over everybody.
Yeah, and that's why if numbers for this, and Andy, from what I play with it, from hearing you and hearing other people whose opinions I very much respect, I think it looks like this is a big leap forward in terms of, especially a tablet this form factor and certainly at this price. I would just worry that in the context of how consumers will initially see it, that it will be just another tablet, and I don't know if it's immediately going to catch on.
But that cuts both ways.
I'm watching you on TV.
You're listening to that really rambly point yet again because it wasn't long enough the first time.
I'll turn off the audio. That looks pretty good, though. This is one of a number of third-party apps on Android for TWiT. This is I think it's F-Con. And this is going to get a little weird in a moment.
Oh, you're watching yourself,
How my. There's Robert. There's just Robert Young. I like this. I think this actually looks pretty good.
No, it looks absolutely great. We'll get some HD movies on, and it just looks brilliant. It's just a wonderful device. Yeah. But what you're saying, it does cut both ways. Something that I've been sort of curious to find out is, do people love the iPad, or do they just love the idea of a tablet computer that works great? Because so far they haven't really had the opportunity to make that choice. So what happened? I think it'll be fascinating when if and when Apple comes out with a smaller sized iPad Mini, and the the Nexus 7 is widely available, and maybe a third party will come out with a good $200, $220 tablet. When people have the choice of simply choosing whatever they want to choose in that form factor, will they necessarily gravitate towards the iPad because it's fundamentally better, or will they buy the Nexus 7 because there's an Office Max where they buy rubber bands 2 times a month, and they saw one and they had an extra $200 and they came home with one, and they're as happy with it as they would have been with an iPad? I don't know the answer to that, and I'm really keen to find out what it is.
I think there's a massive market for a $200, $250 tablet.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's going to really propel this forward. And Apple, we don't know what the price is.
No.
I'd be very surprised if they come down to that level, but maybe they will. And at that point, Apple wins, don't you think? If you have a choice between a 7-inch iPad for $250 or a 7-inch Android, you're going to go with the iPad, right?
I would, because I have spent a lot of time with both devices, and I think that I could talk anybody's ear off on the differences between the two, and I can really define what I want. But I come back to my waitress at the diner. They're not necessarily, or a waitress at the diner who simply said, I like the form factor, I like the price, it works great. I'm of the 5 minutes I've spent with it in my hands, it seems to work very, very nice. So I'd be willing to buy one if I had an extra $200. I also keep coming back to the example of how I react to cars. I mean, in another podcast, I talked about my love for the Crown Victoria. Which I think is just a cool looking car.
Spent a lot of time in the back seat of this.
I was going to say.
Exactly.
Get off this.
I don't know why. Do they all have the metal grid in between the front and the back seat?
I think it's standard. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone I want to buy. Well, they make the police version of it. They make the limousine version of it. I just love the styling of it, of this car that is designed not to attract attention, but the fact that it's designed not to attract attention means that it's the focus of every car on the highway. That's too unhip a car not to be a Smoky. and people say, oh my God, well look, here are 8 cars that you should buy instead of a Crown Victoria. It says, oh, they're terrible, and the thing is, and they're all right about, I'm sure, about the handling of cars, about the power of the engine, about the service, about all this sort of stuff like that. But I'm the sort of car buyer who, if I saw a used Crown Vic in good condition at the price that I wanted to pay for a car like that, I'd drive off the lot with it, and I'd be very, very happy with it, and I'd put another 80,000 miles on it before it would fall apart like the Bluesmobile in the middle of Chicago. And I would be blissfully ignorant of the fact that I bought an inferior car. And I always come back to that example.
Wait. Did you say the Bluesmobile?
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
The money, for me,
now this episode's definitely getting pulled.
I know it's a bad idea to buy like a secondhand cop car or a secondhand taxi, but every time like I see I subscribe to the government auction sites, and every time I see like a used Crown Vic that looks good, all I can think of is Jake, is Elwood talking to Jake. It's got a cop motor, it's got a cop shocks, cop suspension. It was built before catalytic converters or run good on regular gas. I'm like, I want a cop engine. I want a cop suspension.